First with breaking news. First with new information. Plus, your First Alert forecast. 19 News starts now.
Well, we begin with your First Alert on an unsettled, active week ahead. Daily rain chances.
And tomorrow is a 19 First Alert weather day. Thanks for joining us first at 4. I'm Nicole Versansky.
And I'm Brian Duffy. Storms could turn severe tomorrow night, as they sometimes do this time of year.
Yeah, feels like we were just talking about this last week. 19 First Alert meteorologist Erica Page joins us with the details.
Yeah, and it's kind of a similar setup to what we saw last week as well, where you are watching for a cold front to dip into our area. And as it does so, it's going to take full advantage of some warm, kind of muggy conditions across the region. And that could spark some showers and storms, some of which could turn strong to severe. So in terms of our kind of severe threats that we're monitoring, gusty winds is still one of our biggest concerns. But if you can get one of those isolated storms to develop kind of out ahead of any main line that would develop, large hail and isolated tornado risk not off the table. Then as we transition into tomorrow night, you're going to have bouts of heavier rain that will be possible, and we'll have to watch for some ponding that may be possible on the roads as well. Lots of clouds out there. Thankfully, though, it hasn't really done much to kind of dip our temperature too much. We're on a warming trend. We'll talk about how warm tomorrow gets and the storm threat coming up.
Well, the unthinkable happened in Akron. A mother and her young son shot as they sat in her SUV. Police caught their alleged killer on the Ohio-West Virginia border. Our Harry Boomer live now from where this all played out with more on what exactly happened there, Harry.
This is a very sad story, and as often the situation, there is a makeshift memorial here near the spot where Tanya Manguel's SUV stopped after she was shot. This mother, 47-year-old Tanya Manguel, and her son, 12-year-old Jericho Manguel, were shot and killed Saturday night in Akron in a vehicle outside this house at 30th and West Wilbert Street.
Him and his wife pulled up. He jumped out and opened fire on my friend, and then he came around my car and shot me, but it missed. It hit. I felt the bullet hit me in my hair. He shot at me too, but it hit me in my wig. So it missed my head.
The eyewitness to murder was saved because the bullet grazed her head. Tanya had just dropped her off. Her SUV rolled a little down the street and stopped in this brush.
Somebody just shot up somebody's car and it's wrecked and it's on fire right now.
Yeah, just one officer per person, just so we can keep as many bodies as we can out here.
Here's body cam video of the Akron police as they investigated the gruesome scene. There were 3 people in the vehicle, including a 2-year-old toddler. He was unhurt.
At one point, we were able to pull out a 12-year-old boy who, unfortunately, was pronounced deceased on scene due to his injuries. His mother, who was the driver of the vehicle, was transported to Akron General, where she was later pronounced deceased.
28-year-old Brandon Castro was captured in Meigs County, more than 180 miles from the deadly scene.
At one point, he made numerous calls to friends and family to inform them about what he did. Those individuals called the police department.
I think that's crazy. I just don't understand how people can do stuff like that. It's just inhumane. It's unreal.
These incidents are never easy for first responders to go to, and you have officers that are fathers and mothers, and they have to see these types of things, and it can be very difficult for them as well.
Tanya and her son Jericho did not live in this house. They lived in Barberton. The school district expressed sorrow and said the school is out right now on spring break, but they are making counseling available for anyone who needs it. In Akron, I'm Harry Boomer, 19 News.
And we are following breaking news in the First Energy trial. Jurors told the judge they were at an impasse in the case against former executives Chuck Jones, who was the CEO, and Mike Dowling. The judge asked them, the jury, if it would help if the charges could be broken down into so-called chunks. They said yes. The judge reread the jury instructions as jurors went back to work. This is their 11th day of deliberations.
TSA workers are finally getting some financial relief after missing 2 full paychecks as a result of the ongoing partial government shutdown. President Trump is now calling on lawmakers to cut their 2-week recess short as negotiations continue behind the scenes. Jared Hill reports from New York.
Potential signs of progress at the nation's busiest airports after weeks of chaos. TSA officers are finally starting to get paid.
They should be paid, need to be paid, and we need to get things back up and running.
Late Friday, President Trump signed a memorandum redirecting funds to pay TSA as security lines at some major hubs stretched for 3 or more hours.
Ensuring that these federal workers who perform critical public safety responsibilities can feed their families, pay their rent, and show up to work is something the president was honored to do.
While the latest TSA call-out numbers have dipped slightly, they're still 5 times higher than usual, creating the long lines. And more than 500 TSA officers have quit since the shutdown began.
You pay for a priority, you can't get through priority. It's just a strain and unnecessary stress.
The House and the Senate failed to agree to a plan to fund TSA and the rest of the Department of Homeland Security before going on a 2-week break.
We want to fund Homeland Security with reforms to how ICE and Border Patrol are conducting policing.
They're blocking funding for ICE and CBP, so I think that creates frustration for our members.
Back at the airports, the Trump administration has deployed ICE agents to help with the shortage of TSA officers. The administration says they'll be there until the airports, quote, feel like they are 100%. Jared Hill, CBS News, New York.
At 45 days, the DHS shutdown has surpassed last year's funding lapse to become the longest in history. It's also put a financial strain on other DHS workers who are not getting checks at agencies like FEMA and the Coast Guard.
While legislation to get Ohio's executions going again has slowed, one group is using the opportunity to try and get rid of the death penalty altogether.
So they put out a new report today. 19-day journalist Dan DeRosa has a look at the numbers.
Yeah, this kind of started with Ohio Attorney General Dave Yost saying something needs to change. The lawmakers need to find a way to get us away from lethal injections because those medicines, those chemicals just aren't being made available by the pharmaceutical companies. And so he's pushing a new method. We'll get to that in a second. Today's information comes to us from Ohioans to Stop Executions, and they stand by these numbers. Ohio has executed in total 56 individuals, but there have been 12 people on death row who have been exonerated. New evidence, whatever the case may be, they say that's an error rate of 20%. Now, the exonerated weren't executed, but they were on death row. They also point to the fact that we're just not seeing capital punishment indictments like we used to. They're not going after death penalty cases like they used to. At an all-time high was 1984 when we had 171 in the state. We are now at a 5-year average of just 14 a year, and in fact, in 2025, we had 0 indictments for capital punishment. There are currently 116 in Ohio on death row, and Dave Yost, our Attorney General, says we need to join states like Alabama and Louisiana and start using nitrogen hypoxia. That's an influx of nitrogen that basically suffocates the inmates, and he wants the legislation to move. But the Ohioans to Stop Executions say, you better think about this again.
Witnesses who have seen those occurring in the state of, I think, just Alabama, have reported that it is graphic, it is not what the state told them, and that's an example of torturing people to death. I think that lawmakers here should be honest about that. And if they're not informed, then they should learn and understand what it is that the legislation they're offering is actually going to do.
He misspoke a little bit. It's Louisiana and Alabama. Alabama has executed 4 using nitrogen hypoxia since 2024. Louisiana just did their first. Again, legislation down in Columbus has slowed. I don't believe it's made it into a committee just yet, but it is something that the State House is going to have to look at some point.
All right, we are tracking a 19 first alert weather day headed into tomorrow. Please just have your phones kind of on alert in terms of having those notifications ready should we hear any severe thunderstorm warnings issued potentially for our area. The morning should largely be fine. It's going to be warm, it's going to be windy as we're building in a little bit more of that heat. But once you get into the afternoon and evening, you do start to get a better opportunity of tapping into some shower and thunderstorm activity as our next cold front starts to close in. And like like I said, a few could be on the strong to severe side. If you don't already have it, that 19 First Alert weather app is really a great tool to have with you because it will send you alerts no matter where you are across Northeast Ohio if you should have an alert issued for your particular location. Headed into the rest of tonight, things are relatively quiet. Is it possible we could see a stray shower and isolated rumble? Sure. But again, that's just as this heat is starting to build in, keeps us mild headed into tomorrow morning before we track that better opportunity for storms. I'll walk you through hour by hour data coming up.
We are just 4 days away. I saw the sign outside Progressive Field on my way in. 4 days away from the Guardians home opener in Cleveland. And the celebration just got bigger.
Yeah, Guardians off to a good start, too. And Ohio City is kicking off this Friday what they hope will be a brand new tradition, a neighborhood party, ending with a parade straight to Progressive Field. First at 4, Isabella Roberts has all the information you need.
Market Square looks pretty quiet right now, but come Friday, that's all about to change. For the first time ever, Ohio City is hosting an opening day celebration where they're looking to become Cleveland's opening day headquarters. For years, Guardians fans in Ohio City have been celebrating opening day on their own. This year, someone decided to make it official.
I felt like no one had ever organized everyone. We were all just walking neighbor and neighbor, and so I wanted to put a little bit more of a special touch to that and make it a unified, organized event for everyone. Connor Dickey is the director of marketing for Ohio City and the man behind this idea. He says Market Square Park is the perfect place to bring it to life. It's an enjoyable part of Ohio City. It's our front doorstep, and we want to showcase it to everyone in the greater region. The free celebration kicks off at 10 Friday morning and includes food, live music, a beer tent, and a parade to Progressive Field around 1:45, led by Guardians mascot Slider. 15 local vendors and businesses are also part of the fun, with special menus and happy hours all day. The businesses are gearing up and putting on a bunch of specials. They're all on board, and we have a lot of them donating just to make sure that this comes together. And while opening day comes just once a year, Dickey is hoping this becomes a lasting Ohio City tradition. We think if we do it right, people will understand that this is an awesome way to make your way downtown and then keep the celebration going and make this a lasting tradition that brings people to the city. The celebration is free and open to the public starting at 10 Friday morning at Market Square Park. In Cleveland, Isabella Roberts, 19 News.
Artemis II mission is about to launch. It's been more than 50 years since NASA sent humans to the moon, but come Wednesday, 4 astronauts are set to journey around the moon once again.
This is a live look right there on the launch pad in Florida. Maribel Gonzalez has more on this moon mission, and now Hollywood's latest sci-fi film is showcasing the wonders of space exploration.
I put the knot in astronaut. I've never done anything. I've never done a spacewalk. I can't even moonwalk.
Ryan Gosling, or Ryland Grace in Project Hail Mary, is a science teacher tasked with saving the world by leaving it and traveling to outer space. The sci-fi film hit theaters on March 20th, just ahead of a highly anticipated real-life space mission, Artemis II.
The movie provided a catalyst for bringing people together who might not ordinarily think about science.
This week, 4 astronauts will step aboard a spacecraft for the first human moon mission in more than half a century.
For as long as it can.
This time making a 10-day voyage around the moon without landing on it.
Artemis II, in the days ahead, will send NASA and a CSA astronaut into the lunar environment, the first crewed step of the Artemis program to pick up where Gene, Harrison, and Ronald left off on Apollo 17.
Artemis II will take humans farther than they have ever traveled from Earth.
They're going to actually look at the dark side of the moon. They'll be there for 3 or 4 hours looking for places where eventually there might be landings on the moon.
One small step for what's to come for the future of space travel.
Do not go back to the moon just for the footprints and the flags. You must pick up where we left off more than a half century ago. Build the moon base, create an enduring presence.
I'm Maribel Gonzalez reporting.
So are there any local connections to this moon mission? Katie Tursick went to NASA Glenn Research Center to find out. Her story is coming up at 4:30.
Caught on camera, ducklings rescued from a storm drain, reunited with their mom. This is in Gilbert, Arizona. Some people noticed the ducks and called the fire department. They sent a rescue team who showed up to try and save the trapped ducks. Gilbert Fire and Rescue shared this video of a crew member scooping up the tiny ducklings and bringing them out of the drain to safety. This happens every year. Maybe we should teach the ducks not to fall down the drain. I guess we can't. A diaper-wearing pet kangaroo, that's our next story, is now home. Chesney got loose from his enclosure after he got spooked by some barking dogs.
Just so incredibly happy to have Chesney back. It was a crazy time, and I am so thankful.
All right, there he is. Nicole asked where he is. There he is. The owner worked with an aerial drone search team. They spotted the Roo on the run. Sheriff's office said he was safely collected and returned. The owner says Chesney, we're assuming this kangaroo is named after Kenny Chesney, doesn't appear to have any injuries, but will get a check at the vet.
Now your 19 First Alert forecast. Certified most accurate since 2004.
Maybe he'll have a beer in Mexico. 19 First Alert meteorologist Erica Page back with us.
She has details on tomorrow's First Alert weather day.
Yeah, and it definitely feels warm out there today. So if you've stepped out over the last couple of hours, you've noticed temperatures are sitting into the mid and upper 60s. That is a sign of where we are kind of headed as we get into your Tuesday with a little bit more heat piling up on that. So when you combine the heat and the humidity with an incoming cold front, well, you start to get all those pieces coming together that severe weather may be a possibility. I'm not necessarily concerned with severe weather in the morning. In fact, I think predominantly Tuesday morning is dry. It's a little windy and certainly warmer as temperatures continue to warm back into about the low to mid 70s, likely peaking mid to upper 70s as we wait for showers and storms to roll in. The afternoon to evening, that's your time period to watch because we could have a few of those scattered showers popping up out ahead of the cold front and potentially as that front continues to work in. And really the focus is kind of areas north of US 30 where you have the better dynamics in our atmosphere to support some of those showers and storms. Should we get one or two that are strong to severe gusty winds is going to be our main concern, but we could have hail and an isolated tornado risk tomorrow, along with some bouts of heavier rain. Again, the morning not really a big concern for us, but you'll notice with some of this newer data, as we get into tomorrow afternoon, it is possible we get a couple of those more isolated cells as you wait for that cold front to roll in, and that could pose, again, that gusty wind threat, potentially hail, as well as the isolated tornado risk before the actual front starts to sink in late tomorrow night, keeping that rain threat alive into your Wednesday.
Now to your top 4 at 4. A mother and her 12-year-old son were shot and killed. It happened Saturday near Firestone Stadium in Akron. Officers found a car partially on fire that had crashed inside the victim's 12-year-old Jericho Manguel and his mother, Tanya Manguel. They were inside. Manguel's 2-year-old was also inside the car but not hurt. A woman who also had been shot at helped detectives identify a suspect. Brandon Casto is in custody.
We now know the name of the man whose body was pulled out of the Grand River Thursday in Paynesville. James Urbanek was last seen in February. His family and the community looked for him relentlessly. 19 News spoke with several family members during one of their searches. They told us Urbanek was a free spirit, someone who was missed terribly. We still don't know how Urbanek ended up in the river.
An overnight shooting right across from Cleveland State University's campus. It happened on Euclid near East 19th, blocks from Playhouse Square. Police were called to an apartment for reports of a man shot. One person is at the hospital. We don't know their condition or if police have any suspects.
3 paintings by French masters have been stolen from a museum in northern Italy. They are reportedly worth an estimated $10 million in total. The theft took place during the night last week. Thieves broke a museum's main entrance. The theft took less than 3 minutes.
The Final Four is set for the men's March Madness tournament.
How about that shot?
Incredible.
UConn's Braylon Mullins hit a last-second 3 to stun the Duke Blue Devils. They stormed back from a 19-point deficit, capping off one of the most memorable March Madness games in history. There you see Danny Hurley's reaction, the coach of UConn, and here comes the shot right there. It's the Huskies' 3rd trip to the Final Four in the past 4 seasons. The head coach, Mr. Hurley, said his team leaned on its resilience and fortitude.
I've gone into locker rooms where your team is kind of cooked at halftime, and those locker rooms are usually quiet, and they're a little bit somber or a little bit, kind of on their heels. And the locker room was lively. There was some frustration. But there was a lot of life in the locker room at halftime.
All right, so there's Final Four, all set in Indianapolis. 2-seed UConn takes on 3-seed Illinois on Saturday. The other game is a matchup of the two best teams left in the Final Four, Arizona and Michigan. Breaking at this hour, police say a student shot a teacher at a school north of San Antonio, Texas. The campus is now secure at Hill Country College Preparatory High School. Police say a 15-year-old shot the teacher on campus. Teacher was then taken to a San Antonio hospital. We don't know anything about her condition yet. The teen with the gun is dead after shooting himself.
Also breaking, the medical examiner just identified a man shot and killed in Cleveland. The victim is 18-year-old Andrew Freeman. Yesterday, officers responded to a call for shots fired that was on Fullerton Avenue. Officers learned there may have been a fight before that shooting. We have not been told of any suspects.
Vandals target a construction site at the Pro Football Hall of Fame Village.
The police say they did thousands of dollars in damage. First at 4, Brittany Weir has the latest on the investigation.
Canton police called to the Hall of Fame Village just before 7 Thursday morning. When officers arrived at the indoor water park construction site on Fulton Road Northwest, workers showed them the destruction left behind. According to the police report, unknown suspects broke in sometime overnight between 6 p.m. Wednesday and 6 a.m. Thursday. Police say the vandals were able to get inside this construction site because of a door that is normally left locked was found wide open by crews Friday morning. Once inside, they climbed to the second floor and drove a scissor lift, ramming it into walls and large metal units. Officers also saw torn down electrical wiring, damaged concrete, and a broken electrical box hanging off the wall. They say construction equipment was scattered all across both floors. Workers on site estimate the total damage at more than $100,000. They are working with their insurance company and compiling a full list of damaged, destroyed, or missing property. In a statement, Hall of Fame Village says, quote, a recent act of vandalism at the water park construction site resulted in damage. Local authorities are actively investigating, and this was an isolated incident. Work continues with no interruptions. Surveillance video is still being retrieved, and Canton police say no arrests have been made, and the investigation is ongoing. In Canton, Brittany Weir, 19 News.
5 years in prison for a repeat drunken driver. 59-year-old Johnny DeLoach was sentenced this morning in Akron for a stop in 2024. Prosecutors say this is DeLoach's 5th OVI conviction in Ohio, but he was just getting going. It's his 11th OVI conviction overall. DeLoach has also received a Class 2 license suspension, which can last anywhere from 3 years to life.
President Trump's threats to Iran's energy infrastructure sent oil prices spiking, and fears of further escalations are hitting Americans harder at the gas pumps to start the week. Karen Caifa has the latest from Washington.
The White House Monday downplaying fears of further escalation after President Donald Trump's threat to, quote, take the oil in Iran and strikes against Israel by Iran-backed Houthi rebels.
Talks are continuing and going well. What is said publicly is, of course, much different than what's being communicated to us privately.
But fears of a longer conflict prompted another jump in global oil prices Monday.
It takes time for for this kind of a shock to play out into the market.
According to AAA, the average U.S. gas price edged up to $3.99 Monday, the highest since 2022. Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell said it's still too soon for the central bank to gauge how the conflict, now in its 5th week, will impact the overall U.S. economy and inflation.
We will eventually maybe face the question of what to do here. We're not really facing it yet because we don't know what the economic effects will be.
Meanwhile, Matt Schultz, chief consumer finance analyst for LendingTree, says their research shows households are already taking steps to protect their budgets.
Some people are even going and filling up with gas a day or two early
to get ahead of things because they know that it's probably going to cost more in a few days.
Analysts at Macquarie Group said that Brent crude oil could climb as high as $200 per barrel if the war continues until the end of June. That would amount to a U.S. gasoline price of $7 per gallon. In Washington, I'm Karen Kafa.
An alert from the Avon Fire Department. If you see some firefighters around Stony Ridge and Kinzel Roads, don't be worried. Department will be training at a house there this week, and you may see some smoke as well. The department is using what they call theatrical smoke. Avon Lake Police introduced the department's newest member, Crisis Canine Ruby. Ruby and her handler, Detective Robert Walborn, recently completed certification classes. Ruby's job is to help reduce anxiety, support emotional recovery. She will also aid officers in dealing with the day-to-day stresses of that job.